Go for it.
Okay. Well, good news. We're live. It's me, Naomi, with Steven, and our very special guest, Angie, the most recent voted out person from Survivor Maryland Major Conflict. And we're here to talk about episode 13, right before the finale. It's been a lot. And at the very least, look, we lost Jasmine, we lost Morgan, we had Angie. And so we are here to get the final scoop on everything Jam and really everything that happened to you, Angie, in the game. Angie, thank you so much for being here. We're so excited.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So I guess the first thing is, how's it going? What you been up to?
It's been going well. I mean, with COVID and everything, just been at home, working remotely. I got engaged recently and bought a house. Thank you. So a lot of big things happening, even though this year has been a little bit crazy. But yeah.
One positive thing, I guess, because winning Survivor Maryland wasn't one of them, which is not your fault.
So much stress.
How has it been for you watching back the episodes? Because these all happened 4 years ago now. What's that experience been like for you?
Well, I actually love watching it. I remember up until it came out, I was kind of like dreading it because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to look stupid. Like, I'm going to figure out all these things that like I didn't know was happening. But it's very enjoyable seeing like the behind the scenes of like other people's relationships and like what their thoughts were and like how they went into tribal thinking. So, I really like it. I like seeing how many things I missed, how many things I got right. And just like, it kind of brings back good memories because it was one of the more great memories of college, really. It was a great experience.
And what sucks is you're a senior at this time, right? So this is your last year at Maryland. So we're not going to get to see you come back play on another season, most likely.
Am I allowed to like say?
I don't know.
If you come back, don't say anything.
Yeah,
but
if you come back, don't say
Maryland, let us know.
No, I am not coming back. It was my fall senior year, and I think I had the chance to come back spring of senior year, but like to be completely honest, I think it just like stressed me out so much. I was like, I can't do another whole season of this. But yeah, now looking back, I wish I did do it again. I think it would have been awesome to like have a do-over with different people, different strategies. Like that was my first time ever really knowing about Survivor. So having a second go at it, I think I would have been a little bit better. But yeah.
Well, if you didn't know about Survivor before Survivor Maryland, how did you hear about it and get involved in it?
Well, I always knew about like the actual show. But growing up, I never watched it. I think maybe like my younger sister and my dad like had watched a couple of episodes, but I never really got into it when I was younger. And then I actually knew a couple of the other contestants on Survivor Maryland, like Katie and Terry, because they're all in my business rat at the time. So that's what got me into watching it on YouTube. And that kind of really sparked my interest because it was definitely up my alley. I love like games and like those kind of challenges. So I thought it was really fun, which is what got me to audition in the first place.
And I was just wondering, like, is there anybody in this season that surprised you that you didn't know a lot about, that maybe sort of shocked you as like a player, or someone you didn't get to know that maybe you thought would have been someone you would have liked to play the game with?
From like watching the episodes?
Yeah.
I honestly did not know Doug was so mischievous. Like, like, damn, like looking at the episode, I was like, oh my God, he really was like controlling it. Like while you're in the game, I definitely knew that he was very like sociable and like a lot of people liked him, but I didn't know how strong of a player he was. Like he was constantly like thinking of different scenarios. He like, I don't know, it was just kind of crazy seeing that. In terms of people I wish I had like, you know, played with more, I think giving like Amanda a better shot. Oh, Eric, when he got out, I wish I had teamed up with him. Like he was trying to get Doug out. So I was like, oh God, that was a major mistake on my end. Honestly, even though Abby wasn't like very active, I guess, in the beginning, I think it would have been cool to team up with her before she had gotten out. Cause I think she, out of the three girls at the end, like she would have been the one that I could have like really teamed up with well before getting out. But yeah, they're all honestly, I wish I had just talked to more people. I think it would have been pretty nice. But I kind of stuck with Jam a lot and Santi in the beginning.
Not bad alliances to have. Really, the Jam falls apart a little bit. Santi's fault, but it wasn't a bad choice to make in terms of alliances. Oh, and we have one big question that we've asked everybody who's come on, which is, what did you think of Teresa?
Teresa, I wish she wasn't on my team at the time, but I freaking love her. I wish she could have been further into the game. I think she would have been a great person to team up with, but sadly robbed.
She wanted us to ask everybody who came on what they thought of her.
Do you guys know her, or
she came on our show and she was
oh, are you serious? Oh, I wish I would have signed that, but I'll have to catch up on it.
Yeah, all available on YouTube.
It ended up being like 70 minutes of just randomness. It was really a lot of fun.
Really? I'm gonna watch it after this then for sure.
So I think like starting out just this episode, I think the biggest move that you make is you essentially talk to Delaram and say, like, we have interests, we have goals and similar ways of going forward. At what point did you like realize that Delaram was the key, and did you actually think she was going to go through with it? Like, how confident did you feel in your making your move with Delaram?
That was very last minute. That was like right before tribal council, I believe. Like, I had just texted her. I was like, "Can we meet? Like, I want to at least talk to you like once." And going into it, I don't think I thought she was gonna go along with it, because I really did think that she was just gonna stick with Doug. And looking at the episode, I didn't notice like how badly she wanted him out, because she was like trying to get revenge for Sadie and Abby, I guess. But yeah, going into it, like, I didn't think it was gonna happen. But when she like was like, "I'm down for anything" kind of attitude, I was like, great, this is what has to happen. And I was a little bit iffy about her and Dane like working together, but I mean, obviously Dane didn't want to go home, and so like he kind of had no other choice but to like go with a different plan. So yeah, that was yeah, it was. I just went for it, and it was nice.
So you went directly from like that conversation to the tribal council, pretty much?
Yeah,
okay.
I believe so. Like right before, which is why like I didn't get to meet up with Tim beforehand, which I wish I could have. But
because I think if you had that time, that would have changed the entire game there, right?
Yeah. Like if me and Dane had met up with Tim before and been like, okay, let's vote Santi, like I think that might have solidified him voting for him, and then it would have gone according to plan. But
right, the 3-2-1.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any world where Tim is up for voting for Delaram?
Tim is what? Sorry?
Would vote for Delaram instead of Santi, or did he just want to make a big move?
I think he was going to stick with Santi. To be honest, like, I don't think there was any talk about getting Delaram out at that time, from my recollection. But I think it's obvious that Doug wouldn't have gone for Santi. It seems like I don't think he would have switched, but I think Tim would have stuck with Santi if like he thought he had the numbers.
And Tim essentially just gets spooked, right? So, was that your read on why Tim defaults back to voting with Doug against Dane?
I think it was because when I was at council, like tribal council, I kept saying, "I'm going Dane. Like, I'm not trying to, mess things up." So I think once I like kept saying that, I think he did get kind of spooked, or he thought like, oh, like there's no plan to go against Santi now. So I think, and actually Anders on his live show, he actually mentioned that we had started tribal council and like he was asking all these questions, but it didn't get recorded. So we had to redo tribal council with like the same questions. And the first time I didn't say that I was going to vote Dane, but the second time when we re-recorded it, I said that. And so I think the second go around, Tim like decided to switch over to Dane. And I was like, damn.
So you're saying it's Andrew's fault.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not taking that back. He said it's not his fault, but I'm saying it right here.
Oh my gosh. And when I guess I wanted to circle back a little bit to like your relationship with Santi, because Santi is the one who blindsides Jasmine And how did you repair your relationship with Santi, and how did you get to a point where you're in the final six with him? And for all intents and purposes, he's not voting for you, and you're not voting for him. How much work did you put into repairing that relationship?
Oh God, when Jasmine got out, I was just really pissed. But it didn't take, well, I mean, like it took work to the fact that like I think a couple of travels like after that, we didn't really like talk. We didn't really like try to work together. But we would always like, you know, like be respectful of like, you know, like we did work together in the past. Like we do like we wish we could keep working together, but it just needs time to like settle. And I think from my perspective, it did suck that Jasmine got out, but like I'm still in the game. Like I still need to work, and I can't just like cut ties completely with like a player in the game, because like that could be key later on. So I think like I did try to work. Like we would keep like talking to each other, but I mean it was the trust wasn't there 100%. But yeah, so it took some work. Yeah, I don't think he would. It took both of us time to like get to the point where we're at final six and we were like, okay, like maybe things are okay. But
yeah, I mean, it was a really sort of good, I don't want to say move, but like it worked really well in your favor. And I think to your credit, like you don't give up on relationships that you know you have. You keep pushing forward and try and repair bonds. And I think it was very successful for you, and it, you know, got you past like to final six. So
yeah,
nothing to shake a stick at. Not that you would.
One of your relationships I thought was really interesting was you and Dane. Both of you ended up spending, this felt like over an hour in the freezing cold in that pool together. Can you kind of walk through what happened there? How did Dane persuade you to step down, give immunity, and how did you end up working with each other after that?
Honestly, I remember there was a lot of back and forth, but I can't remember like a specific moment where I like what convinced me to like get down. Honestly, I might have just been really cold and I didn't want to stay up there that long. I mean, but like overall, like we did try to talk it through. I think what my main focus was to like convince him like, hey, you might not be as close to like Doug and Tim and Santi as you think. And then I think he, as we kept talking, came to that realization. And what might have convinced me to come down is knowing that he was going to like continue working with me. I think at that time I was literally at the bottom. Like I didn't have anyone, like even Dane at that point. So it might have been the fact that he and I kind of made a pact to like moving forward, we're going to keep working and kind of be on our toes with other people. So that might have been what got me to like get down. And he was going to be voted out that episode anyway. So I think it did help both of our games that he won immunity that time. So yeah.
If you think that you won immunity and Dane does not, does Sadie still go home? Or is it now actually Dane's going home? Because I felt like that was a pretty pivotal decision this season that you made there.
Oh, that's the one where Sadie went home?
Yeah, I think that was final 9.
Oh, wow. Oh, God. So if I had won, then I don't know. I think Dane would have gone home because I think Sadie would have had more persuasion than him. Honestly, I don't know how I didn't get voted out, but
that tie to Santi, right? That was
that's probably like that was key. I think Santi was the one that like pushed to make sure that I didn't go home. So yeah,
and the big threat of the three girl alliance. Every 3-girl alliance cannot find success in this game. It is.
I know. It's so sad. I might have been able to change that at one point with Josh, but
I think, so because we have a jury of all girls and Josh right now. And granted, it's going to change going into the last episode, but
I wish I kind of like when Anders had asked me during his live show, like if I would have stuck with my decision and not going with like Sadie and them. And then I said at that point, like I was like, I think I made the right decision. But to be honest, like from last week till now, I thought about it. I was like, honestly, like if I did go with Sadie, Abby, Delaram, and Josh, you know, like maybe I could have worked with Josh and Abby and like gotten Sadie out at one point, because I think Abby would have maybe been open to it, but I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think part of why Sadie goes home at that point in time, right, is because she is like a huge threat.
Mm-hmm.
And you do have Doug and Santi being like, "Isn't Sadie such a huge threat?"
Yeah.
That episode was so good. That just the conversation between you and Dane. I know it. Did you feel like you were sort of out of allies and you were like, oh, fine, I'll work with Dane. Who cares? Here we go. Or were you like, you know what, this is the best decision for me right now? Because I think you were in a really interesting sort of, I guess, on the bottom spot, but you just really didn't have a ton of allies, and this was a great moment for you to find them in Tim and Dane.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a little bit of both. One, I was just at the bottom, and I kind of had no other option since everyone else was like in their 3, and in a sense, like Dane was kind of at the bottom as well with like his alliance. So I think it kind of just made sense and like naturally happened that we would start working together. So yeah, I think it just kind of made sense that to both of us, like, hey, like instead of like going at each other, like why don't we work together, you know?
Mm-hmm. One thing that stunned me was that this alliance of 5 that comes, so it's you, it's Santi, it's Doug, it's Dane, and Tim, end up working with each other for like 3 different votes in a row, right? So you vote with each other, you take out Sadie, you do it like Sadie. Was it Josh first? I can't remember.
It was Josh and then Sadie
Josh,
and then Abby.
Sadie, then Abby. Like you take all 3 of them out together, and I just could not believe you all kept working with each other like that.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised too. Like Doug, and I feel like Doug could have like easily changed that at one point. Like I feel like he could have saved Sadie and like in a sense helped his game a little bit, but yeah, I was honestly surprised that the final that 5 alliance stuck together for that long because, well, I'm not that surprised since like Tim, Doug, and Santi were very close. So, but I don't know. Like there was a lot of question as to why it kept happening, but I mean, I stayed in for as long as I could, so it was in my favor that it happened that way.
I mean, I think it's a tough spot. It's like Doug and Santi just have all this power that you don't even know about, and I think that's something we got to talk about is these idols, these rumored and then confirmed, and then there's more idols.
How many did you think Doug had going into the final 6?
2. I think I thought he had 2.
Okay.
I didn't even know about the 3rd one, I think.
Yeah, was that shocking to like watch back?
Yeah, I was like, what the hell? Where is he popping these out from? Like, he's really dedicated. He really went searching for these.
Was it you who made the comment episode saying like, if Doug has 2 idols, then Tim was like, well, why didn't he just play one if he had 2? Was that you who made that comment? Someone in the tribal council is like saying, Doug has 2 idols, we need to take him home. This is after the first vote. And Tim's like, well, if he has 2 idols, why did he just play one? And I think you were just like, I don't know.
I think Delaron was the one who like ousted him on the 2 idols, but I don't know who said like that second comment. I don't know. Maybe it was me or Delaron.
Like the viewers were like, yes, this is what we're thinking too. Why didn't he just play an idol? We don't understand.
I don't know. He really felt safe, I guess, which was kind of his like downfall in that episode. But hey.
It means you all played really well.
We made him feel safe. We're like, no, you're not going home.
Yeah, and a lot of that is Delaram, and it's a real shame that like because of this situation, you guys don't get to work together going forward, because I think that would have been a very, very fun alliance to watch. You guys were so over everything that was happening at this point in time. It was really funny to watch, and it's a shame that it didn't happen. And I know I think you say like, I'm gonna draw the red domino, like before you draw it. Did you just have that feeling? You're like, it's gonna be me. I know it.
Oh man, no, I told Andrews this, but I legit put my hand into the bag, picked one up, and I thought in my head, like, this is the bad one. So I let that go and picked up a second domino, and that was a red one. And I was so pissed because like I was like, if only I hadn't done that, like I would have been in the game still. But man, I just hate rocks. Like if I look at a rock, I'm like, oh nope.
It's very hard for you to go outside right now.
Yeah, that's right.
What would your future have looked like? Let's say the ideal happens and Santi goes home.
Oh, Santi goes home. Okay.
Well, isn't that the ideal? What? It's Delaram or her. So let's say
who Steven's rooting for.
Well, I guess the question is Santi going home your ideal situation, or is Delaram going home at this rock draw?
I think Santi going home would have been the most ideal, right? I mean, I will be honest, like I played both scenarios in my head multiple times, like, oh, like if Delaram went home, what would I have done? If Santi went home, what would I have done? But I think ideally Santi going home would have been nice, because then me, Delaram, and Dane would have worked together moving forward. I don't know about Delaram and Dane, but that's how I would have approached it, at least. But yeah.
So would you have tried the vote? I guess you vote for Tim next tribal council?
Yeah, because I guess Doug would have been safe. So it would have probably. But I mean, those idols.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Because Doug has the ability at this point to slam dunk someone out of the game, and unless he chooses not to, because by all means he probably. After what we saw this episode, he might just not play idols next episode. Who knows?
I don't know. I think it might have. He might have been real shocked and then just kept all of them for himself, or maybe he does play it on other people. But yeah, I think if he did play it on Tim, and let's say I got immunity, honestly, I think Delaram going home would have been better for my game, because I think she has a more social play to her. I think more people in the jury might have voted for her, because like Dane was kind of always like at the bottom, like he might have rubbed some people the wrong way, so it might have been more favorable for Delaram to go home. So maybe I would have pushed that way. Otherwise, if Doug didn't play it, like if Doug doesn't play his idol, then I would want Tim to go home. Maybe.
Yeah. And this was something that I had thought of. If Tim didn't win immunity, let's say maybe Santi wins immunity, because he was so close. Would you guys have ever considered voting at Tim? I know Tim doesn't really flip until really late in the game, but like, was that ever an option of losing Tim in this situation if you're afraid of Doug's idols?
No, I think we would have just kept gunning for Doug regardless, because that was kind of our last chance to get him out, like before he could like just swing his way all the way to Final Four, I think it was. So I think we would have tried the same move, but if instead of like trying to convince them that like it's going to be Santi, it would have been like Tim instead. Or I don't know. We would have tried to finesse it some way, but get Doug out.
So so let's say make it the Final Four and Doug is there. Is the goal just win the challenge and make sure people vote for Doug, or like just
Yep. Okay. Just win. But
no question. Yeah. And the other thought I had was just like, how did you feel like you were losing your mind while you were trying to explain to everybody to vote out Doug, the biggest threat in the game? Like, how was this going? This whole sort of rocks debate before you go to rocks, I felt like I was truly just watching I don't even know, like the dumbest reality show I've ever seen. Because it was just like these two guys being like, you guys lied to us. And it's Survivor. What?
Yes, thank you. I was definitely losing my mind. I think I like talked at one point, but right after that, I just kind of gave up. I was like, it's not happening. I just kind of sat there and let Delaram rant off, trying to convince these boys. But yeah, it was very hard to like hold down your tongue at that point. I like looking at the episode though, I like kind of see it from, well, at least in Santi's eyes, I'd see his perspective. Like Doug gave me his idol, like he's going to keep me moving forward. Like, why am I going to try to get him out kind of thing? From Tim's point of view, I can't really understand it as much, because he, like for him, like he's not, I don't know. I don't think he played it smart in keeping Doug. Honestly, I don't even know if he would have tried getting Doug out if we had successfully, if Santi like had gone out and it was just like him and Doug, like, and then the three of us, would he have voted Doug out? I don't know. So it's just like interesting to see his like thing.
We've seen a lot this season of Tim's inner turmoil. Like Tim wants to win, but Tim also values his friendship, and it's kind of really struggling. Like, how do I weight these two things together? What have your thoughts been on that? This inner look to Tim's head.
Tim's head is very interesting. I think he went back and forth a lot, like in that term, right? At one point he was like, "Oh, like I'm gonna win the game," but then he was like, "But I think I can take Doug to the end and still win." And then he said, "No, like I don't care about friendships." I don't know. He just went back and forth a lot, and I think that's what the game does to you, honestly. Like at one point, like you think it's like my game, like I'm gonna win for myself, and then at other points you do talk to people and you're like, oh, I don't want to like not play this game without you, kind of thing. So I'm sorry, what was the question? It was just what did I think
you answered it.
Like, is Tim okay? I think it's a question. No, it's all right.
But I feel him. Yeah.
It's an interesting you had seen earlier seasons of Maryland, how it really goes from like friends in the end having to be like, bro, I want to win, to like people being like, I want to win, but like they're my friends. It is a really interesting like sort of shift in the balance of Survivor Maryland, where now people are really prioritizing their friendships over the game they're playing. Which in turn Doug finding 3 idols. So
yeah, everyone didn't want to hurt Doug's feelings.
It's a dark timeline.
It is a dark timeline. But honestly, it is just a game. Like for me personally, like looking at it, we're gonna get over it. Like if you backstab, if Jasmine or Morgan like had voted me out for God knows why, I would have been fine. Like yeah, I would forgive them. Like I don't really care. It is a game. Like you're trying to win. If it was for their best interest, go for it, kind of thing. But not people are as think that way, I guess.
And that's something interesting to bring up is like losing Morgan was very clearly like a huge low point in sort of your, I guess, future, where you were sitting here being like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. Like they're going to go to Morgan. And you do vote with her, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah, I definitely stuck with her. I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you think like, you know what, my game's over next round, might as well? Like, is that, I just think the rebound is so interesting. I mean, that's, I think, why we were both rooting for you so hard, is you rebound in a way that was so successful, partially due to Santi. But at that point, losing Morgan, did you think that you had any future in the game? Or were you just like, oh, well, goodbye?
Oh, no, I didn't think I had a future. I thought I was gone next. From the way that they were voting, I definitely thought that I was going to go home. I don't know why they kept me around, but I guess it kind of made sense.
Immunity helped a lot.
I guess I did. I guess I won immunity that.
You went 11, then 10, and then 9. Sorry, I messed up. 9 was when Josh went out, so you were in the majority there. 8 was when you gave immunity to Dane and Sadie went out. So you were able to get on the right side of that 4-5 split.
Yeah. But it's interesting that you mentioned Morgan's vote, because I guess I just went back on what I said because I voted with her, even though it wasn't the best move for me, I guess. I don't know. But
yeah, it's interesting foreshadowing. But at the same time, you guys were in an alliance together, and the threat is, it's not like Morgan's going to win the game. Like, you knew Morgan was going home. Much more different than, trying to keep Doug in so he can play all his 3 idols the next round. I don't know. I wish Tim and Santi the best, but dear Lord.
So, if looking back, and if you could change one thing about what you did or a move or how you played, what would it be?
Oh, there's so many. But
you can list out as many as you want.
Well, like one, Eric, I wish I would have worked with him. I think we would have been able to figure out some way.
If you had Liam's, if you had Liam's extra votes, and like you were able to do a 4-3 with the extra vote, it would have been beautiful.
Yeah, that would have been beautiful. Amanda, I think I said this before, like with Anders, I wish I kind of worked with Amanda instead of getting her out. Because I guess her like future plans kind of aligned with mine more than some of the other players. Honestly, like working with the girls and Josh, maybe. I wish I didn't give the idol clue to like Sadie and Doug at one point. I was like, what the hell am I thinking? When I watched that, I was like, did I really not give it to Morgan? Like, what? Even though it wouldn't have helped, but like still, like, what was I thinking? I I wish I had told Santi about Jam earlier. I think if I didn't keep that a secret from him, he wouldn't have maybe flipped over to like Tim, Dane, and Amanda. Because then I could have like finessed it like, oh, like I think like Jasmine and Morgan are really close. So like you and me, like why don't we just like join them? But then moving forward, he wouldn't have known that the three of us were really close. Looking for the idol. I will say me and Jasmine, the vote where Jasmine went out, we thought Morgan was going out. So me and Jasmine stayed up till like 2 a.m., I think, like just looking for the idol all over campus. And then we were just like so distraught. We're like, we're not going to find it. Morgan's going home. Oh no. And then Jasmine went home. We were like, fuck.
Yeah, it would have almost been worse if you found the idol, played it on Morgan, and then Jasmine still goes on.
Oh yeah, that would have been so much worse.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's Survivor. You look back on it, you can go, oh shit, I've made like 20 mistakes. This is bad.
Yeah. But that's the beauty of that show, I guess. Like, and it's also like one move can really determine so many different scenarios moving forward. So gotta love it.
Absolutely. Would you ever do something like this again? Would you ever play like a Survivor game in the future? Something that's not Maryland and not like 80 something days?
I don't know. It gave me a lot of stress thinking about it. But I think Anders actually told me about this like online version when this had first started airing. So I thought about it. I was like, maybe I can do it, but it seems fun. But I'm more of like a physical like challenge kind of person. Yeah. I started watching like the one that came out on Netflix, the Survivor one on Netflix right now. I think it was like Kageon or yeah. I just finished it, but I loved it. And like those kind of challenges, I was like, I want to do that kind of stuff. Like those look like fun. But yeah, maybe like I'll do something.
Yeah, does the like camping outdoors aspect appeal to you at all? The like starving yourself?
I love camping. Like that kind of camping is a little extreme, but yeah. I don't know. But yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, there's some games out there that like try and recreate Survivor puzzles and try and put you outside. I will never do them, but they seem fun.
Have you guys done like any of the online stuff? I know like there's a lot of those, right? No.
Online is tricky because I know what you're saying. I agree that like I like doing the challenges in person and getting to talk to people in person. Online, you're like IMing people and you're like, do they like me? I can't even tell. Like it's brutal. It just really makes you go like, I don't think people like me, and I just have to keep texting them.
Oh, so you've done it before though?
I did too. I mean, I knew the people who were playing, but it was still very stressful. There's ones where you do it over Skype too. It's honestly, it's all very emotionally stressful.
I did a version of the mole with friends, but I would never. Honestly, I like the partition. When you play like these like 2 to 7 day long Survivor games, you're out in the wilderness, you're doing nothing but playing a Survivor. It's like great, single focus, can focus on this. I think I would love to do a school, like I'm at Texas A&M right now. I'd love to do a semester long one, but my gosh, the time management and balance would just eat me alive. I applaud all of you for doing it because you've probably watched it eat more and more and more of your time in your life, especially as you're moving towards finals at this point in time.
It was a lot, yeah. But
I think just overall our final sort of question that we have is like, now that you're on the jury, without spoiling anything, what are you looking for in a winner? What is important to you in somebody getting your vote to win Survivor? Do they have to play like an honest game? Are they strategic? Are they challenge beasts? Like what appeals to you?
I think it's just like a combination of all. The challenges, like, I don't think going into it was as big of a factor for me. I think, honestly, it's just how good you talk for me. Like playing an honest versus like a lying game, like those are 2 different like strategies that I both like can commend. But honestly, like you just gotta be able to back up like all the questions that are being thrown to you. And I think based on your answers, how I would choose my winner. I don't know. How about you guys? How do you guys like usually?
The one time I was in the jury and I voted for the person who played the game I wanted to play.
Oh. And what kind of game is that?
It was a game where he played with very little immunity, idols or challenges, and really was very strategic and social. And so I really liked that, and I really admired it.
So do you have a favorite for our season right now?
Oh, man.
Well, Steven's winner pick was Morgan.
Yeah, my winner pick was Morgan.
Wow. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's really funny.
I mean, okay, so I find it hard not to root for Doug because he's done so much. And so I think, I mean, if he went home with 3 idols in the pocket, like this episode, that would change the entire season dramatically. Like, oh my gosh, what just happened? I would like to see if Doug can pull it out, and if he doesn't, there's gonna be a lot to talk about.
I always vote for the person I've realized. I always vote for the person who kicks my ass. That's usually who I vote for, is the person who gets me out of the game. I don't know why that to me says, you were smart enough to take me out, and I have to reward that. Like, that's a good move on you. Not to say that I'm a genius at Survivor, but mostly that it's like, yeah, you outsmarted me. You did it, so you win. I think a good question is, like, Angie, would you have voted for like Tony or Woo? Like, that's, I think, a good basic.
I would have voted for Tony. Yeah. Like, looking at that season, I was like, oh my God, like, he did such a...
You can't recreate that season.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, when you're looking from the outside, it's like a completely different perspective from like when you're in it and at final tribal council. Like, you don't know all of the things, like the moves that went into like them getting there. But yeah. Who would you guys have voted for? Tony or Woo?
Tony.
I would have voted for Cass, but
my gosh, I feel so robbed of a Cass versus Woo tribal council.
I know. I was like, oh wow.
Oh man.
Did it really go that route? Like, but
man, it's so funny. And I think that's like, it's great to see that somebody sort of like, the jury is something that always ends up being really tricky in both early Survivor and in college Survivor, where it gets really emotional and really sort personal. Of, this is a big brother problem too. Like, people take things really personally. And so I'm excited to hear that, like, people we've talked to are like, no, I want to vote for people who play the best game. You know, I want to see who does, did the thing. So I'm very excited to see whatever the hell is going to happen tomorrow.
No, I'm excited too. I can't believe it's tomorrow.
When you were voted out and you're walking away, who were you rooting for at that point? Who did you want to see get to the end?
I think like Delarama Dane, probably, just from like an underdog perspective. Because like if I had stayed in, I probably would have teamed up with them. And then in that kind of sense, I was like, I wanted to root for them because like we had a chance to like work together and like get out these big threats, but maybe they can pull it off somehow. You never know. So I was like, I think I wanted one of them to win.
There's been somebody in the YouTube comments for like weeks who's like, I'm on the Dane train, and apparently they picked the right train.
Oh man, I have not been super nice to Dane. He's impressed me a lot these past couple weeks, but I wanted way more. I felt Anders promised me a villain, and Dane has not really been that villain. It's been very interesting, kind of wrapping my mind around who Dane is and what he brings.
Dane has a lot of levels.
Yeah,
it's like an onion.
I texted Josh. I said that Dane feels like a little kid trapped in a big kid's body. Like, he's so nice, then he just gets so like irrationally emotional, and you're like, I love Dane. I don't know what he's serving, but it's interesting at least compared. Well, I unless there's anything else you want to talk about, Angie, you're free from our clutches.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been so much fun talking to you, and really a treat to get to talk to you after such an amazing season.
By the way, Angie, you were Naomi's winner pick as of the last episode. She was the one who...
Oh, you were?
Oh, yeah, I call it... Well, first it was Sadie, and then Sadie went home. But then I was like, well, I'm all in on Angie. If Angie doesn't win, the season sucks. And so the season does suck. But that's okay. I'm sure the finale will be great anyways.
Now you're hopping on the Dane train, I'm sure, right?
Okay.
No, Dane's a Walking Dead man. If he gets through the final 5, my gosh, that's a miracle. He deserves to win.
Yeah, Doug uses all 3 idols to just get Dane out.
Yeah.
That would be the funniest solution. Oh my god. Well, Thank you so much, Angie.
Thank
It's been so much fun to talk to you.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. Excited for you guys to see the rest and see if you guys like it.
It's gonna be fun tomorrow.
Yep.
I'm actually to watch
awesome.
it live.
Be well and be safe and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye. So that was so much fun. Steven, I'm tired. I'm tired of watching Doug succeed.
I mean, did you hear my scream from halfway across the country when the votes were revealed and it was a 3-3 split and he didn't play his idol? Did you hear the echo in the distance?
Yeah, you probably heard me. My scream and my kitchen went all the way around the world and then hit Texas. So that's what you probably heard.
Because I feel like we need to talk about this travel council because we talked about it with Angie, but my gosh, so much so much nonsense went down. I am appalled and amazed.
The absolute tomfoolery of this episode. I cannot believe.
Does Doug even deserve the win after doing that? What went through Doug's head when he's just like, okay, we can actually probably guess what went through Doug's head. I haven't heard my name. Tim hasn't said my name. Santi hasn't said my name. They've reassured me they haven't said my name. That's half the players right there. Therefore, I'm likely not going home. I know the votes are leaning towards Dane and Santi. I've given an idol to Santi. I'm probably okay to sit here with 2 idols.
So here's the thing. I think on rewatch, and this is just really a testament to how good Anders is at editing, the very first conversation we see is a conversation between Delaram and Doug. And Delaram is like, I still want to work with you guys. Mm-hmm. And, Doug's like, why are you telling people I have idols? And Delaram's like, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, that was Abby. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But we really see kind of this story. I think if anybody watches the episode again, take a look at how Delaram basically is under the wing of Doug and Santi. And they're like, yeah, we have Delaram. Mm-hmm. And then Angie makes the very calculated move to swoop in and grab Delaram and say, hey, it's us 3 on the bottom. Let's go. And successfully sort of flips her. And I think part of why Doug was so stupid this episode is because he didn't think that Delaram would flip on him.
Yeah.
And good for her. Good for Delaram.
I mean, it was great by Angie. Great for Dane, Angie, Delaram to figure that out, to meet up, to make it happen. They just were so close to sealing the deal, and they did it. Can you imagine what we'd be talking about if we saw the first person anywhere I've heard of walk home with 3 idols in their pocket at the final 6? My gosh. But even if you're Doug and you've given an idol nice to the Santi who doesn't play it, you still have 2 in your pocket. It's final 6. What are you doing?
I just think that the thing with Doug is your threat perspective, right? Which is what I don't understand is that mm-hmm. you are it is an open secret that you have 2 idols. So if you're worried about your threat level going up because you have played the idols, well, isn't your threat level going up when you don't play the idols and when you've been so good at the game that you've successfully maneuvered through the game without using mm-hmm. the idols? And not to mention, the idols are such an important tool in getting out who you want to get out. Mm-hmm. If Doug plays an idol, he gets rid of Dane. If he plays an idol and votes for Angie, he gets rid of Angie. You have such a tool in your tool belt to essentially
sculpt your final 3 and 4.
Exactly. And you're not going to use them. At this point, they're not about keeping you safe. It's about getting rid of the person you want to get rid of. So I was blown away by how dumb this was.
I feel like we're at a point in Survivor, and college Survivors are probably different, where does taking an idol to the end mean anything?
Who's done that as of recent?
I'm thinking of Survivor New Zealand, where gosh, I can't remember the friend's name. So one of the final 3 takes an idol to the end.
Oh yeah,
completely disregarded. I don't think we did.
Does DK Chillin take his idol to the end?
I would like to say that I think he might have, right. I think he takes that. I think he keeps the idol that Tommy gives him the clues for and brings the end and shows it off with as part of the bling. Right. I think.
I'm pulling up the wiki right now. Don't you worry.
Yeah. So I think if you're this huge major threat and you are able to get to the end with idols in the pocket, it's kind of like gravy. So it's icing on the cake. But if you're anyone else, I think people are kind of looking and saying, you had that, you didn't do anything with it. It's kind of like, wow, you squander opportunity. in the Bible, there's a parable, like the parable of the talents, right? Where you have an owner and he gives the talents, these coins to his various workers. And one takes it and invests it and says, hey, look all this money I made. And he's like, oh, you did a great job. The other one takes it, buries in the ground and says, here's your money back. And that one gets reprimanded, right? So it's like you give an idol to a player and you expect them to come back with dividends and do something with it. I think just squandering and just sitting on it, yeah, it's impressive you shepherded it to the end, but I don't think that's impressive what you could have done and like sculpt your end game with it. And Doug doesn't even need to do that. Doug, I think at the end is just going to speak for himself.
Yeah, so there's interesting, another person who never uses an idol is Taj gives Steven Fishback an idol in Tocantins, and that never gets played.
Ty went to the end with an idol in Kauronka's medevacs.
and so yeah, there are all these sort of situations. Oh yeah, Coach has the idol in
South
Pacific. So there are all these examples of people sort of like taking idols with them. That's an interesting comparison. Is Doug Coach? We'll never know. But we will know when we see this episode air. There are these situations where people take the idols because they have so much control that they don't need to play them. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I don't think Doug has that control. And it is much better. Like, here's the other side of it, right? Doug at this point is pivoting into unlikable. It's not his fault, but in an emotional game, when you start betraying people and you start hurting feelings, you're going to be seen as unlikable. Mm-hmm. I think especially the people who in particular probably don't like Doug are, let's say, Amanda, maybe Sadie's upset with him. I would say Abby, maybe Josh. So there are several people in the jury who are essentially upset with Doug.
You feel betrayed.
Right. And if you start playing idols, then you essentially kind of gain the ability to say, look, like, you may not have liked me, but like, I'm playing idols. Like, you can't deny my strategy, even though it hurts your feelings. It gives you another little sort of dot on your resume to say, hey, I'm still playing this game really hard, and you can't fault me for that.
I think the other thing you do with idols, especially if you have extras, is it's a display of largesse of your power. Like, think of Wendell playing his idol for Laurel at the final 5 of Ghost Island, right? You play it to protect someone, say, you're valued to me. I'm going to make sure you get through this vote. You can do stuff like that, which maybe that's what Doug has in mind, where he's like, oh, I'll play it for myself. I'll play it for Tim, right? That's all. And that's what I'll do with these two. And then Santi has one that Santi will play for himself. I don't know. So maybe that's when there's mine, but man, that's nice. But do you want something better? Free ride at Final 6 and Final 5.
Yeah, and like he could have like Tony'd it and been like, oh, I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it. Mm-hmm. No, I'm never going to play it. But he didn't. And that's like another thing is like he's not utilizing it to make the strategic moves that he should be.
Especially when it's an open secret, right? If people kind of all know you have one, and if not two, it's like bring it out, say, hey, I have this idol, I'm playing it tonight, and let's see where the dice fall on everyone else. If this is a 3-3, I'm not going home.
So I just wanted to pivot to a concept I brought up to you before we went live, which is, do you think that the better move, even though I know this would have been probably hard for Angie to do, is to vote for Santi here? Because Doug is a chicken, right? When you vote for Doug becomes safe at the rocks. But Doug, I think, would be such a chicken at the odds of like, you got a 33% chance you're drawing that rock. Would he have done it? Would he have flipped on Santi? And I think Tim follows Doug's lead.
So I'll say this. I think even beyond being a chicken, I think if you have $2 in your pocket, I would flip in a heartbeat. Yeah. It's just like, Santi means so much to me, but I also can get to the final 4, and I don't want to be rocked out with 2 idols because that's even stupid. I think it would have forced his hand, and frankly, I am impressed that Santi went through with it, even with just 1 idol.
And we know that essentially, like Angie just said, it unfortunately just didn't work as a 3-2-1 because they couldn't get to Tim in time, which is a real shame.
That's why I was still confused, because I thought like their vote, like Tim was supposed to vote Santi, right? Yeah. But Tim ended up flipping back to Dane. So because if they were able to keep Tim on Santi, if Tim kept believing it was Santi, then you have the 3-2-1 lined up. But somehow in the course of the tribal council, or the pre-recorded tribal council, Tim gets spooked enough that he reverts back to I'm gonna vote Dane because I know Doug is, I know Santi is. Seems like Angie might be as well. So he flips his vote, and then you end up with a 3-3, and it's like, oh man.
Well, I think part of it is I think this is a game of people who are playing in their comfortable zone, right? Santi and Doug and Tim are all playing in their circle of comfortableness, where they're saying, I know that Dane is probably going to cop votes. Let's vote for Dane. I feel nervous that this plan isn't going to work. Let's vote for Dane. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Doug and Santi are saying, let's go the easy votes. Let's vote out Dane. Let's vote out, you know, Abby. Let's pick off the people that are easy to us. Mm-hmm. And so I think that Tim took like 2 steps outside of the comfort zone and then went, I don't know. I don't think this is going to work. And he fled back.
I mean,
this is a shame because Tim needs those moves to be on the list.
You know, I don't know. I don't feel like I don't want to judge Tim too harshly because I do agree. Like, here's my final thoughts. I think if only Angie had met with Delaram a little earlier, and so you could have gone and arranged things with Tim, and either get Tim to vote Santi and he use him as that one vote in the 3-2-1, or vote Santi and aim for a 2-2-2. Like if you had just tried to pull one of those off, and maybe all that involves just not spooking Tim, and it was just wrong. It was just misplay at Tribal Council by that threesome. I don't know.
It is interesting because I was shocked that Dane was so. I thought that both Dane and Delaram actually played a lot better than we'd ever expected them to do in this episode, because Dane is he's so steadfast in knowing that Angie won't vote for him. Mm-hmm. That he's not scared when she says it at Tribal Council. He's not scared when she calls him up and says, look, Santi talked to me. He wants me to vote for you. I'm not doing that. Like any other realistic player would get pretty spooked. And mm-hmm. he was straight on the path. He knew exactly what was going on. And I thought that was actually very admirable trait in Dane.
And Dane at this point has really identified how he needs to win and what he needs to do to get there. And like, he's kind of saying, oh, why would people vote for me? I'm the minority and whatnot. But I think Dane now has a very solid story and narrative to sell at the end, and getting there when you're like, well, people have been tired of looking at you, and you've been able to really cobble together this unlikely group to get you there. That really sells. And he's gone, oh, man. It's just, you get this Tribal Council, man. You get this 3-3 instead of a 2-2 or 3-2-1, first of all. And then you get Doug's, why didn't Santi even play it? It's just like, can you imagine if Santi does play the idol? Now you're sitting there with like Angie and Delaram saying, oh, well, are we going to draw rocks?
Especially at a 3-3, like you have to consider the fact that there's a high potential that Angie and Delaram have realized that they're on the bottom, and Dane knows it too. Mm-hmm. And you know, I think another thing I just want to say is, like, I think the YouTube comments are being really unfair to Dane and Santi and Tim. Like, obviously they're playing a very controlling game where they're not going outside their comfort zones. Doug.
Okay, I was like,
a lot of D's still left in this game.
They need to get voted out fast, man. Come on.
And I think that, like, they're being a little unnecessarily cruel because, look, Tim is playing an interesting game, albeit a misguided one, but so was Dane early on. You know, Dane was being pissed at Eric for, like, reasons where we were like, oh, what is going on? But at the end of the day, like, Dane has sort of turned it around. And I think, you know, shitting on Tim for effectively, because I think something we haven't really acknowledged that Anders gave us early on is that Doug, Santi, and Tim were floor mates freshman year. So they knew each other. They've known each other. Mm-hmm. And that's clearly what's coming into play here, is that they know each other and they feel comfortable in this position. And maybe something... go ahead.
Naomi, you've talked a little about your experience in Survivor Buffalo. You mentioned that when you played, you end up allying pretty strong with someone you already knew, right? Yeah,
2 people that I was very close friends with.
Yeah, it's when you're in these situations, it's you gravitate towards the familiar, and plus you're friends, right? You don't want to like immediately like say, "Hey, you're here," stab them in the back, like maybe down the road, the end game, yeah, it's acceptable. Like early on, no. Like, these are people you like, you get along with, and you can trust. That can go really far in these games.
And not only that, but I think when it's somebody
mm-hmm.
I think you get sort of convinced that their strengths and weaknesses, and you can beat them because they are a known quantity to you. So you say to yourself, I know what it takes to beat them, and I can do that. And another thing here is that I just think that Tim really has his own vision in his head of like what game he's playing. And it's just unfortunate that like, because we know that Doug is so strong, we have the foresight of knowing that Tim is in a little bit of a delusion land.
So do you think it's cognitive dissonance?
Well, I think Doug is so good at being casual about things, right? Because we watch him in his conversation he has with Delaram, and like he's so good at like laughing things off and being like, oh, why'd you tell people? Oh, okay, because I was like, oh my god, like he has such a natural ability to like bring something up, get an answer out of you, and then laugh it off like he doesn't care. And so he seems so casual and so calm, and I think Tim just sees Doug as somebody who's being really casual about things and is being pretty like, he's helping me find idols and blah, blah, blah. And I think that just like, he's not really seeing that Doug is the formidable threat that he is. But I don't think it's fair to say that Tim is like completely delusional. It's Survivor. You don't know what's going on in the game, especially when you're not. Again, I think really Survivor fans need to get this in their head. If you're not in a fucking tribal camp with somebody, you don't get to see what they're doing 24/7, and therefore you don't have like the information level of, hey, I see that Doug is talking to Santi. I have
a phrase for you. This is a fun economics phrase. It's information asymmetry. That's what players suffer from even more in a college Survivor game. Because like you said, in a real game, you can at least see people walk off together. In this game, unless you like steal their phone, look at their text, you have no idea what communications are happening with other players. Information asymmetry is when you lack information other parties have.
Asymmetry, right? Hey, yeah, I did. Okay.
Yeah, so we typically think of information asymmetry. So let's say, Naomi, you and I are brokering a deal with each other. Let's say I'm going to buy a car from you. It's a used car. You know the exact condition of this car. You know that there is that one of the tire, I don't know, has been patched. You know there's something wrong with the AC, but you don't tell me that. And so I'm like, oh, the car is great. And so I purchase the car. I find these issues out myself, and I am now sad. This is information asymmetry working in your favor in the bargaining, right? And players, when you play Survivor, you deal with this fact like they have info I don't. It's like, let's say Doug has 3 idols. No one else knows about idol number 3. This is an advantage in Doug's favor. And the college format makes it, yes, you can also look at text and pictures, but it makes it so much worse in all these other ways.
Yeah, especially when there's not like a giant alliance, because I think we saw it in Survivor Michigan. It was a lot easier for information to kind of go like person to person to person, because there were like 3 major groups of 4 and then like groups of 6. So the alliances were so massive that information would get tossed around quite quickly. Whereas in this, it's like people in these little pairs trying to get information from other pairs and say, hey, it's your best interest to be with my pair. And it just kind of like, not everybody has the same information. And you have people like Delaram who are like pleading with everybody to hear the news that Doug has 2 idols, and people still aren't absorbing it. It's very frustrating, but I think to say that Tim is like completely delusional is dismissive of the fact that like it's college Survivor. You don't get to see everything that's going on.
And if you're Tim, you still have a final 3 potentially of Dane and Delaram that you can wrangle with, or swap out one for Santi, right? Like, or maybe Doug. Who knows? I mean,
Dane beating Tim would be fucking hilarious.
What Dane, Delaram, Tim?
Yeah, so funny.
Dane wins, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, oh my gosh, like how much am I going to apologize to Dane if Dane wins? Like, I don't even want to think about this. So when we look back at this season, and I'd like to talk about, let's first talk about how people get to the end. How does each person get to the end and win at this point? A lot easier than the last episode. There's 5 people, and we've already seen Angie get rocked out, and there's still 3 idols left. So what is Doug's victory's end?
What do you think it is?
So I think after such a big hoopla over Doug not telling Tim lies and Doug being honest to Tim and Doug holding the secret third idol, I think Doug needs to only play one idol and have Santi play another. And I think even better if Doug can like get it played for Tim somehow. Because I think Doug needs Tim to think he's honest, and Tim either need to go to the jury at the final four thinking that he's honest, or sit to end with them. So I think Doug needs to play an idol for himself next tribal council, get Santi to play an idol for Tim or himself, and then to win the final four challenge. Or even if he loses the final four challenge, he needs like Dane to be there. so Santi and Tim feel their hand is forced to take out Dane. So yes, vote out. He needs Delaram out final five, and he needs Dane out final four.
I agree. I mean, obviously. And math one more time. So we have Morgan, Amanda, Josh, Sadie, Abby, Angie, and we have 5 left. So 2 more.
Yeah.
Would be a jury of 8.
Yeah.
I'm still convinced it's a final 2 with a jury of 9.
Yeah. Which
I would love to see.
Same. I always love final 2s, but even this would be also an interesting final 3. Can you imagine if it's a Doug goes home final 3?
That's what I think might end up happening, is that like there's such a high chance that the threat of Santi and Doug becomes so absurdly high that Dane and Delaram are able to say, Tim, do one goddamn thing or they're never going to vote for you to win. And then Tim finally does it. It could happen. Anything can happen. I mean, we literally just saw Angie go out at rocks. Like, what the fuck, dude? So, the world is Doug's oyster, I guess.
All right, so my prediction: Doug needs to take out Delaram and Dane, and cannot Surrey out a player. You cannot Surrey out Dane, even though it's tempting. Right. So, I think then looking at Tim, you need Santi to go home at 5, which isn't happening. But you need Santi to go home, and you need Doug to go home, or you need to at least get Doug out final 4 somehow, and just cobble together a final 3, however you may wish. But I think you need Doug out at 4, and then not you out at 5 to have a chance.
I'm excited for this finale, like no matter what. I'm definitely curious to see how it goes down. I think it will be a new era of Survivor Maryland, of like the kind of all over the place game where somebody isn't necessarily like smooth all the way to the end. Not that like every winner before that has been like that, but we see even like a winner like Katie or Chris, they make moves towards the end game that are always beneficial to them. And I don't necessarily know if like anyone at this point has made every single move beneficial to them. I think a lot of people are making a lot of mistakes.
Included.
Yeah, and I don't know where it's going to lead them. And so that's what I actually think is so interesting, because we do have a very smart jury. And I'm very curious to see like
all these STEM majors, man.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where their opinions fall and what they end up wanting to do in terms of rewarding a winner.
So I guess we'll jump the gun. How are we going to view the season if Doug wins? Because on one hand, it's been kind of a masterclass, right? Doug has done so much so well. Right, he's really played the players. He's read the room. He's a fantastic social gamer. He's won a challenge. He got the 3 idols. It's gonna be a little bit more bitter for 2 reasons. One, the disastrous final 6. Right, it's like that. This episode was terrible for Doug, even though he walked through with his allies. It's that on top of like people are going to accuse him of being enabled by Santi and Tim. Right, and I don't think, and honestly though, I don't think that's a knock against Doug, because everyone let him do it.
Yeah.
Right, it's not, again, we've compared the Real Fit season 2 where you had a dating couple and very few players knew about it, so it was this big surprise at the very end. Everyone's like, oh my gosh. Well, people knew that Doug and Santi were roommates far long ago, and people knew that they were friends with Tim far long ago, or at least figured it out. And so people let that happen. This is kind of starting to be on them.
Yeah. Yeah, like they can't blame Doug for being successful with his friendship.
Yeah.
And they can't blame Santi either. I think they can blame Tim for being essentially the third wheel in that situation and not taking the reins more. But you can't blame it's like you can't blame people for using what they have to get ahead in the game of Survivor. It's what they have. Like, does Cops R Us suck as a concept? Yes. Did they utilize it to, to have Tony win a second time? I hope Ange doesn't watch this part. Spoilers. But yeah. And if you're not being proactive in dismantling that, then that's your problem.
I mean, I'm thinking like in the most recent Survivor BC season, the British Columbia season, Tribulation, you had a former winner, Tyler Caputo, come back and play. And he was on Tribe A, and on Tribe B were two of his close friends that no one knew about. And what happened is those two players flipped to Tyler, and then the merge ended up being a purge of the majority tribe because that tribe fell in infighting. All around, like, wait, why are you flipping? And it was a disaster. But at the same time, you saw a player kind of throw away that advantage of having that hidden friendship. It was very bizarre. Maybe for the best for the season, I don't know, but I think Doug will. I think if Doug wins the season, I think we can kind of say, well, I think the best player won. And yes, he had these advantages, but the players unfortunately let him have these advantages.
Yeah.
I think Dane winning would be. I think he's a 95% chance of going home in the final five. I think that would also be. I think he would be the underdog story of the season.
Yeah, I agree.
Of just someone who. I think we really counted out quickly, who really who's a little bit more rough on the edges of the social game, but was able to cobble together and lead the charge middle of the merge, and that carried him to victory.
I hate that I just want Dane to win right now. Like that's where I'm at.
And maybe the season then isn't why Dane won, but then becomes why Doug lost. In fact, I think any way that Doug loses is the season becomes why Doug lost, not why Doug won.
I agree. And I actually think Doug is a very interesting villain, and I think people are just so mad at him.
You agree he's a villain?
I think he's a villain. I agree.
Okay, yeah. Okay, good. Because I think we were talking about like episode 2. Like I think Doug is being a villain here.
So somebody on the Discord was saying that they think Doug is a villain, and I concur with that because Doug really is playing like the most sneaky. Like just watching these scenes where he basically like passive aggressively like is like, oh, like why did you stay on the poll so long, Dane? Oh, we're not going to vote you out. What? And then
he wanted to befriend Morgan just to vote her out. That's the most villainous thing you can do. We'll never forgive you for that, Doug.
And I think Doug is a great Survivor villain. It's just that he doesn't get the comeuppance like everybody wants the villains to get, and that's not satisfying as a viewer, but you have to look at it from the perspective of like nobody knows that Doug is a villain. It's almost like Russell Hanson in a way in Heroes versus Villains, where like nobody realizes that Russell Hanson is like such an asshole, and they're like, yeah, let's give him an idol.
All right, so we have Doug and Dane. Let's talk about a Santi win. What does a Santi win mean?
A Santi win means that Santi has cut Doug. I think that guarantees him a win if he can get to the end with cutting Doug.
Now, what if he gets to the end and someone else... Let's say it's a final 2 and he gets in with Tim, but Tim voted out Doug. Does he still win?
I don't know.
Because I think Santi beating Doug, we're going to have to talk about juries and what that means. If Santi beats... I think Santi has a fair chance to everyone else. Santi's game's been a little weird, though, because he's been targeted probably more than he should. Maybe from his connection with Doug, maybe just his perception that Santi is a threat. And he's had to really deal with it, kind of ducking in and out and what he's been able to do. I think at least voting out Sadie might help differentiate him enough from Doug's game that he can hold his own at the end. But I think Santi would be a good winner. It's just he's just played so much from Doug's shadow. It's gonna be a little hard at times.
Yeah, he has to lose Doug, and he has to sort of. Santi actually had a really funny foreshadowing this event where he said, this episode, he said, "It's always nice to know what happens, and no surprises at Tribal, which hasn't happened to me yet."
I mean, and hey, props to Santi for going the rocks, man.
Yeah.
It's brave.
It's a ballsy move. And I think if he says I made this move because Doug had given me an idol and I couldn't betray him at that point in time, but I just needed the ability to betray him the next time.
Yeah.
I do think Santi actually has some of the biggest he has like the biggest range of words available to him. How do I phrase this? Like, he has the most he can pull from and say, I did this because this, and even it's BS, he basically can sort of lie and construct his own narrative, and he has sort of the most to pull from. I made lots of moves in the pre-merge. I made lots of moves in the post-merge to make sure that even though my red numbers were dwindling, I was still in the mix.
Doug ultimately needs to be a shield that needs to be discarded at the final 4 or 3. Probably 3. So let's talk about Delaram.
Oh, Delaram.
Can Delaram win this thing?
I don't know if Delaram will get the votes from the more strategic jury members.
I want to say I love that I love that she's here and she's playing hard. All right.
She is trying, and I really love that about her. I really love that she is making a goddamn effort.
And it's what kind of makes me upset is just like, man, what if we saw this Delaram starting episode 2, right? Like I feel like Delaram, if she comes back, would play this way from the get-go, and I think kind of having the crutch of Abby and Sadie really, because we talked about Abby in this last episode, like Abby really turned it on in her final episode, and then so we see Delaram turning on, like, okay, here we go. But I agree with what you're saying.
I would love to see a Delaram win over Doug. I think that would be, like, I'm looking at what the funniest potentials are. Delaram beating Doug is fucking hilarious. No question.
Gosh.
Right?
My gosh. I don't know, like, what would we even talk, like, we'd have to revow the entire season next recap if that's the ending.
I would love it. I mean, it's just such a crazy sort of, it's just been such a crazy game.
Mm-hmm.
And I really have loved every second of it. Even the parts that hurt my heart, but I want to see the craziest possible ending, you know? Like, I want to see shit hit the fan. Yeah, and then everybody online be mad.
Well, it's YouTube. Everyone's mad anyways, perpetually. So Tim is our last person. Honestly, Tim cannot win in the final 3. Tim needs the final 2 desperately.
Yeah, I know.
And I think Tim has a very structured plan. It looks like he needs Dane going home next, not Delaram. He needs Dane home, then needs to get Santi and Doug out the next 2 times.
I agree.
And then I think it's going to be it'll be a toss-up between him and Delaram.
Yeah, I think Tim is really the person who almost benefits the most from a final 2 because he has the highest chances of losing in a final 3.
Yep.
Like you said. And so,
yeah. I mean,
but I think the Tim win is the darkest timeline for me.
Well, Tim called it. Tim like absolutely was like calling it now. I'm the winner of this season.
Okay, I can say I'm the winner of this season. I just think that Tim has done the least in terms of being in actual control of the game, to deserve that title.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, sorry, Tim, I think Tim has benefited a lot from.
I guess
maybe he steps up and he claims the Sadie vote, and people say, "Yes, you were the person who charged against Sadie, and we went with you," and it happened. Yeah, I think. Honestly, this is why I'm kind of rooting for Doug to pull it off, even though he's a villain, even if it might be a tight vote. I would like to see. I think Doug winning would be a good ending to the story, and I can accept Dane and Santi.
I agree. That's how I feel at this point.
And then if Delaram and Tim win, we talk about juries. we talk about why everyone else lost.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's shaking out to be, right? But
Mm-hmm.
We're all going to find out literally tomorrow in like over 24 hours. And it's going to be another conclusion to, I would say, another great season of Survivor Maryland. Like,
I had a lot of fun, and maybe it's just because I've enjoyed podcasting with you.
I'm a delight. No, I think this really has been a fun season of Survivor Maryland. We've gotten some really fun characters, and at the very least, we've gotten some great future All-Stars contestants. And like that's kind of what you're looking for, right? You want to see the people who did not got their torch snuffed too soon, and they need redemption. And I want to see who they are. I want to comes.
We talk about the next episode, right? We talk about redemption next episode, not this one.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Eric Redemption Island twist where Eric comes back into the game.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for the finale when Eric comes back from Redemption Island. I forgot about that, and that's gonna make my day.
He messages it on the live show every week, and every week I forget about it, and it makes me laugh. And I think next week would be a good game to play is who's going to be on All Stars, and we'll shoot our shot. If the Dane train doesn't win this week, he's coming. He'll come for you in All Stars.
Yeah, that's what it's like talking to Ange. Like you're a senior, right? I like she kind of cued off that maybe there's returning players in the next season, but it's just like you have to like say, all right, let's see, no Mike, no Morgan, no Angie, no Teresa. That's the worst of it all. Like I don't think we're gonna see them again, but there's plenty of other. We can talk about who has the biggest potential in a new season. Also, everyone has Russell Hand's potentially, because no one's gonna have seen these seasons yet.
Damn, no Mike returning is actually making me a little upset because I would have loved to see like Mike try to be more mature, like he talked about, and try and come with a win that was less about him being like a big strong dude. That's really funny. No Teresa. Ugh. Maybe Ivy's world tour will begin again, and that's all we can look for.
Ivy was not a senior. Excellent. There's hope.
We did it. Let's all have a Dane dab in the chat. So I have to get started. I'm making latkes because it's Hanukkah. Any final thoughts before we go into the finale? Who's your pick? Who's going to win? Call your shot.
Ever since he took out my girl, I'm saying Doug pulls it off.
All right, I've done it. I've joined the Dane train.
Okay,
I'm guessing Dane's winning.
What's his margin of victory?
What is that, math? I don't know.
Wait, did I say Doug? I said Dane or Doug? I should have said
I don't know. What is margin of victory?
I said Doug. How many vote win? Is it a 1 vote win?
Okay,
2 vote, 3 vote?
1 vote.
Okay, so like a 5-4?
Yeah.
I think Doug will have so if it's an 8-person, I think he'll have a 4-vote lead minimum. Mm-hmm. So I think it'll be like, I don't know, I guess trying to count. There's 9 people, so a 6-3 or 7-4, a 6-3 or 7-2. I think it's gonna be somewhere like that.
I agree. Well, actually, I don't agree, but I do think that like it's either going to be 1 vote or it's going to be like huge disparity. Like it's not going to be like 6-4 or whatever. It's going to or 6-3 or it's going to be like huge disparity or.
The Laurel vote. Do we see the Laurel vote?
Maybe if it's final 3, that would be even funnier. If this season ended with a tie between Doug and Santi, it would be.
And Tim is the vote breaker.
The funniest fucking season of Survivor Maryland I've ever seen. Better than Chris coming back and being like, I'm gonna die and become the hero. Like even somehow better than that.
All right, so I think perfect world we see Doug and Santi split 4-4, and Tim casts the tiebreaker vote for who?
I think he's gonna vote for Doug.
All right,
and you're just gonna see Santi like looking like Dominic, just shaking his head, being like, "I lost $1 million to a friendship." Great. Well, I'm gonna go.
Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you so much. Happy Hanukkah to everybody out there. Survivor Maryland All-Stars of David coming to your screen soon. Don't forget that you can subscribe to Live Reality Games on literally anywhere you get podcasts, but also YouTube or Facebook. Go like our page because then you will always be inundated with the moment that we go live with any new update, any new show, podcast, episode recap. So get your information as soon as possible by subscribing, liking, clicking a button. I don't know. And tomorrow's the finale of Survivor Maryland. Congratulations to Anders and the entire team. It's been a blast, and we are so excited to be at the end of this and find out what's actually going to happen and find out who the winner is.
So much speculation.
So much speculation, so little time. And if you want to support us, follow Survivor New York. Steven, you got anything?
I'm working the live reality game wiki still, slowly chugging along.
The live reality game wiki is living and breathing. And if you want to update your live reality game, or if you want to do such a nice favor and update their live reality game page with things like vote count, players, etc., you can do that. What is the address for that? Do you know it off the top of your head?
Fandom wiki live reality games. Hold on, I can. It's like it's a URL.
All of my history is clogged with Amazing Race wiki pages, so I can't tell
live-rally-games.fandom.com/wiki/live-rally/games-wiki. It's terrible. It'll be in the comments.
Jesus. Great. All right. I'm going to end this now.